really great framework that I was taught by one of my coaches, and it's called GWC, and it stands for Get It, Want It, Capacity to Do It. It actually comes out of EOS from Gino Wickman. And so really sitting down with them and being like, first of all, do you get it? Do you get the vision? Do you get your role? Do you get your role in the vision? So do we get it? Next, do you really want it? And then do you have the capacity to do it? I had someone that was on this team, and I could just tell she got it. She had the capacity to do it, but you know what? She didn't really want it. She just wasn't happy. I could tell. And I was like, you know what? You're awesome. I love you. And if you want to do this, I got your back, but I got to ask you, it doesn't seem like you're happy. She's like, I'm really not. And I'm like, all right then, where would you be happy? So we found another place in the organization where she could do more of what lit her up on the inside.
Hey, Uncommon Leaders, welcome back. This is the Uncommon Leader Podcast, and I'm your host, John Gallagher. If you want to grow your bottom line, you have to focus on people. That's something we talk about often on the Uncommon Leader Podcast, and my guest today is about to make that even more clear to all of you. Clara Capano is a leadership trainer, sought-after keynote speaker, and a two-time best-selling author. She's a business owner and is also the vice president of culture and performance for a massive 1,300 agent sales organization. She's been featured on NBC, ABC, Fox, Forbes, and if that's not enough, she's also the host of her own Claraty in Action podcast. You're going to enjoy and love this conversation we have today, so let's get started. Clara Capano, welcome to the Uncommon Leader Podcast. How are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic, John. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. Looking forward to our conversation. I know you're out there in San Diego today in the beautiful weather. It's nice here on the other coast here in South Carolina today as well. It's summertime moving into it, and I love this time of year. That first question, how you doing, is probably the easiest and most boring that we'll ask today. I'll start you off like I start off every first-time guest with a story from your childhood that still impacts who you are today, maybe as a speaker or as a leader or however you want to frame that.
Yeah. And I love this question because I think so much of what happens to us when we're kids, it finds its way to us. So when I was maybe 12, 13 years old, I was battling some health issues and I was spending some time in the hospital. And I remember there was a moment where the doctor and the nurses, they were all talking about what they were going to do, what the problems were, but they were talking as if I wasn't even there. And I was just inconsequential. And I remember thinking to myself, this is wrong. I'm here. I want to know what's going on. And I remember a moment that I said, this is what I want to do. I want to go into organizations, especially hospitals, and teach people how to communicate together because they were talking with each other, but leaving me out of the equation. And I think somehow through all I do, that's kind of in essence what I do is I work on, breaking down the walls, bringing more clarity and just bringing people together with true human connection.
No, I love that as a story. And I'd love to say that as I've gotten older, I've done consulting in healthcare for 15 years now. And it's an industry that's just an absolute mess, whether I experience it as a receiving of care or watch as an aging parent is going through. So many things that they miss that are just basic human things, to your point about empathy and realizing that there are folks that they're trying to make decisions on their health going forward and not including them in the conversation. So I can understand how that could impact you for a long time. I want to jump right in because you talk about the people. You talk about if you want to grow the bottom line, you have to focus on people. Maybe that's part of what you started way back when you were 12 years old to connect that with. But what's the metric that an organization can measure to understand that if I focus on my people, then I'll grow my bottom line?
Yeah. And it's not necessarily one thing. It's understanding that our people are our clients. I think so much in business, everybody is so focused on the outside client. Are we giving them top-notch service? Are we giving them sometimes, it's called that white glove customer experience. And we forget, are we doing that for the people that are showing up each and every day with us? And I truly believe if we want to focus on growing that bottom line, making our shareholders happy, all of that starts with our team because people don't leave jobs solely because of a paycheck. They leave when they don't feel valued, when they don't feel seen, when they don't know what their role and what their part is in creating the vision. So it's really important that leaders slow down and focus on building these relationships and showing genuine care and concern, because when you take care of your people, they will show up and they will go to the ends of the earth for you.
Yeah, you say that, and I remember reading a book, and I know it was, 25 years ago. It's called Big Bucks, and I think Spencer Johnson was one of the co-writers of the book. But he had a very simple equation. He said, profit is the applause you get when you take care of your customers and create a motivating environment for your employees. The profit is the outcome. If we just take care of our people, the profit is the outcome that's there. And so we need to focus our energy on that space. Now, you get a chance to talk to all different kinds of companies about this mix. What do you see when you go into organizations that tell you they're not focusing on their people? What's the biggest barrier that you come across right off the bat?
Yeah, you can just feel the energy. And I know that that's not a real tactical thing, but I think we all know that. You can do it. You see the people, even from the front desk, they're just there to push the papers. They're working for 5 o'clock. You hear them talking about, oh, I can't believe it's Friday, and oh, can't wait till Friday. And it's like, when you love where you work, when you feel you don't even know what day it is because you're just excited to be a part of it. And so I think, looking at those things, looking at, is there a heaviness to your people? Are they being reactive? And going back to the initial discussion we had about the doctors and the hospital visit, are your people being transactional? Because when they get into that mode where they're being transactional, that's a disconnection, and that's something people really need to pay attention to.
That's so good. And the parts that I think about even there, because when you walk into an organization, you can see that they've got their core values posted up on the wall, but you can tell really, really quickly that they're not living out those core values. It's a question that I'd love to ask the executives after I take a walk the first time through. I'm like, you've got your core values on the wall. What do you believe that you should see when you walk around? What should you hear when you walk around that are identified with those core values? And so the organizations, especially the leaders who aren't connected to that with their people, are going to recognize that it's not fair. Now, you're running multiple businesses. So you're a trainer, you train folks how to speak. You also do sales training in terms of work. You do consulting. You got a lot of different business that you're involved in. And you're actually the vice president of culture and performance for a huge sales organization, 1,300 members. Wow. So for you, and we'll talk about your framework here in a minute, how do you stay aligned in your business to make sure that you're taking care of all those things that you talk about as well?
Yeah. So, it all started years ago. And one of the things that I started doing, and I do this on Sundays, is I have a strategy session with myself. I call it my CEO meeting. So every Sunday I sit down and I look at each aspect of my business and I say, what are my areas of focus? What am I doing for the organization that I work with? What am I doing for my podcast? What am I doing for my speaking business? So I'm making sure to touch every aspect of the business. And from there, I can put, my schedule together and just make sure that I'm working in each of those. So it's just really being clear, really being focused on what I want my outcomes to be. It's communicating with my staff, which is my virtual assistants. It's really making sure that I'm talking with my team and having as clear conversations and proactive communication that I want. And honestly, sharing. My son is now 21, but I started sharing my schedule with my son when he was about 8 years old. Because we're a unit. I started sharing my schedule with my ex-husband and his wife because we're a unit. And the only way I can do that is if I have my entire team working with me. So you got to bring your people in, and it starts with getting clear for you first and then communicating that with those around you, because we have to have that support, that buy-in, and just that commonality of everybody knowing what's going on.
Love that. You talked about that relationship with your son in your book, The Mother of All Success Manuals, and why we didn't necessarily have a focus. You're a 2-time best-selling author. The subtitle of that book, How to Control Your Days, Lose the Guilt, and Find Harmony. So I'm guessing there's a story with your son that actually helped to drive the writing of that book. Tell me about that. Tell me about that book, however you want to. Yeah. And more importantly, tell me how to control my days.
I know, definitely. So the book is, again, my gift to working moms. Obviously, it speaks to everybody, but definitely working moms. And when my son, I I got divorced when Nicholas was about a year and a half. I have a great relationship with my ex, but it wasn't the right relationship. So we parted ways, co-parented. And I remember Nicholas was maybe close to 4 years old. And I was sitting on the couch one evening doing my emails, working. It was around 7 o'clock at night. He was sitting next to me and he was drawing a picture at the table. And he came over to me to show me this picture he was so proud of. And he said, Mommy, look at this picture. And I remember going to him being like, oh yeah, Mommy will look at that in a minute. Let me just finish what I'm doing. And he looked at me with those big brown eyes. I can still see it today. And he said, Mommy, you're not paying attention to me. And I think we all have a moment like that, whether it's a significant other, a client, a kid, where we realize we are out of alignment. And so that night I had a real conversation with myself. I said, was this going to be another moment where I just wake up tomorrow and just plug back in and say, oh, that was just a moment? Or am I going to finally pay attention? Because the reality was I was showing up, but I was not present. And I wasn't present with my clients. I wasn't present with myself. I wasn't present with any of the core things that were important to me. And it always reminds me of a quote from Stephen Covey. If you want to know a person's true priorities, look at their bank account and their schedule. And I was so out of alignment. I wasn't making any of those things a priority. And I thought I was out there doing a great job until I finally stepped back and started listening. And so that was sort of the beginning, of learning all of that. And then even as I was writing this book, he was 16 at the time. And I remember asking him, in your opinion, what makes a good mom? And he responded with things such as someone who listens to me, someone who supports me in my dreams. It was not has dinner on the table, makes dinner. They don't care. They don't care if we get takeout. They don't care and what I started to learn is it's not about being there 100% of the time. It's about when you are there, be there 100%. So I started to learn these strategies so that when I can be there, I can be present with him, and also giving him permission to call me out and to say, you know what, you're like, we're on the phone. And he'll be like, I can tell you're not paying attention to me. Do you want to call me back? And it's like, no, give me a second. And I think that, having those moments, they're learning opportunities. The question is are we going to be listening?
So good. I don't mean to go, but and tying that right back to your story as a 12 or 13-year-old as well, when folks weren't listening to you or including you in that conversation. So much there inside of that. I appreciate you sharing that. And I got to believe that was a book that was probably fun to write, but also challenging to write in that space when you ask those questions and hear that feedback, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
So over these years that you've taught, over these years that you've trained, over these years that you've consulted, and I don't know how recently, you're going to have to tell me, I think if my mom would be on, she'd say there's a spelling error in your word clarity, but I get it. I know there's a play on name here. You've developed the Claraty framework to help train, and I'll probably use that in your own business as well. We don't have time to talk about all 7 of those, but talk to me about the evolution of that Claraty framework and what it means to you and how you use it as a coach and trainer today.
Yes. So, my name, Clara, it's kind of a unique name. And I hated my name growing up because my siblings were all very common names, Amy, Lisa, Paul. And then here I could never get anything personalized. And I realized it's because this is my gift. It's to bring people clarity. And with my framework, I've also created something that's called CQ, the Clarity Quotient. And if you think about it, we can be smart. We can be emotionally connected, but if we're confused, if we're out of alignment, we cannot take action and go forward. So that's really what I want to do when I work with people is help them get clear on their vision, their why, get clear on their role in their organization so that they can pair that with the clarity of activities. So they're doing the right things, not everything, the right things. Going into clarity of time, understanding that time is an investment and where do we need to be investing that. And then also the clarity of communication, because when you bring this in and when you have clarity, you can then give that clarity to others. And if we really want to make positive change and impact happen, we have to start with clarity.
Love that. Clarity in activity, clarity in time, clarity in communication.
Yeah.
So good. And you're assessing that. You're doing an assessment as well inside of that space. So where do leaders fall down the most? Where do you see it? Which vision, activity,
I think
time, or communication?
It starts with the vision. And I think many of them are somewhat clear, but they're not clear on the communicating of it with others or sharing it at all. They just expect people to get it. And I've had so many people who have sat down and said, I wasn't sure if I wanted to work with this company, but then I sat down with the leader and I heard their story. and I wanted to be a part of that vision. That's why people stay. It's that essence. It's that heartbeat of the company. So I think if they're not clear and aren't really communicating it, that's a big one. I think, when you're looking at the clarity of role, we hear the term micromanaging. Well, micromanaging happens when people don't have clarity of their roles and they start doing everybody else's job. So getting people clear, making sure they have the capacity, make sure that you're clearly laying out this is the expectation in this role. So I think a lot of those things, and then just, you have to model the behavior. If you want your people to have communication, you better have communication. If you want them to take time off, you better take time off. So it all comes back to, are we moving in the right direction? Are we modeling what we are speaking? And are we showing up and living in alignment with our vision? That's why vision is so important, because it becomes a checks and balance. Every decision you make, it becomes very easy. You just ask yourself, is this decision going to move me towards my vision or away from my vision? Yes or no? And then you can make higher quality decisions.
Hey, Uncommon Leaders. Hope you're enjoying the episode so far. I believe in doing business with people you like and trust, and not just a company name. That's why a strong personal brand is essential, whether you're an entrepreneur or a leader within a company. Brand Builders Group, the folks who have been helping me refine my own personal brand, are offering a free consultation call with one of their expert brand strategists. They'll help you identify your uniqueness, craft a compelling story, and develop a step-by-step plan to elevate your impact. So head on over to coachjohngallagher.com/BBG, as in Brand Builders Group, to schedule your free call and take the first step toward building a personal brand that gets you noticed for all the right reasons. That's coachjohngallagher.com/BBG. Now, let's get back to the episode. So I also see a through line here that's very important to you, and that's time. Your book talks about how to control your days. You talked about the Covey quote with regards to looking at your account, your checking account, and your calendar. You've got a talk that's actually called Be the CEO of Your Day. And inside of Claraty, that's number 3, very important there. So let's test Clara. How do you control your time? What are a couple habits or disciplines that you have that help you model what you need to do when it comes to time?
It's a great question. Time is a valuable commodity, and most of us are spending it when what we need to do is shift our mindset to how are we investing it, because we don't get it back. So you have to start thinking of, what am I going to use this for? Where am I going to be investing it? So as I mentioned, I have my CEO meeting. Well, part of that is putting my schedule together for the week. Here's where most people fall down with the schedule. They think a schedule is restrictive when honestly a schedule brings you freedom, because the things get scheduled get done. I also teach people to set their schedule up the right way. When you lay your schedule out, the very first thing that should go into your schedule is your life. The reason people get burned out, the reason they don't have a life, is because they don't make it a priority. So I would put my schedule together. I put in there time for my workouts, because if I'm not healthy, I can't be any good to other people. I have time for, my thought processes, my time for what I want to be with my family and friends. So I put my life in there. Then the second thing I do is, what are my hours of operation this week? Is it a normal week? Is it an abbreviated week? Because I don't want to set my goals up until I know how much time I have. Then when I know how much time I have, it's what's the highest and best use for it. And then I start time blocking. So, putting those together. Some other tips that I have used is, I have a morning routine. I also have an end of the day routine. I call it bookending my days, because if I can control the bookends, I can manage the chaos in the middle a little bit better. I started a long time ago blocking out 30 minutes later in the morning and later in the afternoon for what I call the unexpected. The unexpected always comes up. At this point in time, I was working in real estate, so there was always an issue with an inspection or a loan issue or whatever. I didn't have to stop what I was doing, because I knew when I could address those things. So if people called in, I could say, you know what, let me give you a call between 11:30 and 12, and we can work on that together. So I didn't have to, again, have that ebb and flow. I could keep my level of productivity. I also do something that I call bubble time, which is not a new concept. I just call it bubble time, where it's creating tight bubbles of focus. So if I have an hour segmented, we'll just say from 9 to 10. From 9 to 9:45, I go into my bubble and I work. No incoming calls, no incoming emails. I work on whatever it is I need to work at. Then the last 15 minutes, I step out of my bubble. I address what needs to be addressed, and then I come back to another bubble time, because you can get a lot done when you're not distracted. And studies tell us that we lose about 2.5 hours a day of lost productivity due to distractions. Distractions are not going away. So this is a better way to learn how to manage them.
I love that bubble time. I talk about the 47 most powerful minutes in a leader's day. Ultimately, is that bubble of 47. Set a timer. Don't come out of it. Don't turn your phone off. Put it away. Whatever you got to do to it. If someone can't be without you for 47 minutes, oh, by the way, it feels like in the real estate world, I did that for 6 years, rode that to the bottom in 2009. Like the phone is constantly ringing. I mean, and that was pre big time internet and everything else with regards to communication.
Oh, yeah.
Big time communication. I can't imagine what it's like now, but I love that. I mean, the Pomodoro technique talks about it 25 minutes and 5 minutes.
But I mean, it's all in setting up the expectations. I would tell my clients, and I tell my clients now, if you leave me a message or an email, I ask that you give me a 3-hour window to respond.
That's good.
And a normal person's like, yeah, that's okay, because I can't answer my phone if I'm at a speaking event. I can't answer it if I'm on a podcast like I am with you now. So you have to set these expectations, and you have to remember you control your business. So make the decisions. If you don't want to work evenings, you don't have to. You just have to have a solution for the people who might need something on the weekends. But you've got to be in control. And, you learn these things going through, but if you can learn them on the front end and understanding that when you are overly available, you really aren't available. Because again, you can't show up with purpose when you're on demand. The idea is let's switch, let's add value, let's be so purposeful that we become in demand. People are in demand. They respect us. They respect our time. And you get that when you live authentically and when you deliver a high level of value to them.
Of that. So many things, that come to my mind as you just walk through that, the infamous knock on your door, and that can be a text message. Hey, you got a minute? And it's never a minute. It's usually 5. Many times it's 10, 15, 20 minutes in terms of by the time you're done. And your point about focus and distraction, there's science behind how long it takes you to get back into what you're already working on. Like you're trying to teach this to 1,300 sales agents. What does a vice president of culture and performance do to teach 1,300 people how important that is? How do you do that?
Well, I work with my team of 9 and teach them how to work with it. But it's a lot of modeling. They will see me in the offices doing what I do, and if they come to me and they're like, do you have a minute? Sometimes it's, I need to finish what I'm doing now. I'm on a tight deadline, but can I come see you in 15 minutes? So doing those things. When we have about 3 company calls a week, and I will chime in and work on giving them ideas. So it's building the trust where I can, and I don't like to use the word call them out, but where I can interject, and they know that I am coming from love. They know that I am coming from a place that I want to truly help them. So they're more inclined to listen to what I have to say. But a lot of it honestly comes down to the modeling of it.
Well, I love that. The modeling is very important. That's development of self. You talked about that in terms of your 9 team members as well. So developing your team so that they can deploy that out to many more people. And you've got to be a secure leader to be able to delegate down, and try to get some of those techniques in place, which is very important. And then having systems and processes inside of that, both for yourself and for others to teach them, equip them how to move forward. Speaking of equipping and inspiring and encouraging others, you've got another, I don't know if it's a framework, but it's certainly a concept that you call white glove leadership. What is white glove leadership?
So it's going back to what we initially talked about in the beginning of this call with the idea that take care of your people. What I find with so many leaders is they are so focused on the customer as the public and how can we create a great experience for them. We can't create a great experience for the outside client until we take care of our internal clients, which is our staff. So your team members, your staff, everybody that works with you, even entrepreneurs, think about your strategic business partners. And the idea is, are we showing up for our people? Do we know our people? Are we paying attention to them? Do they need a day off? Do they need help with something? Because when we show up for our people and we create an experience for our people, our people want to create that experience for the people they work with. And it's a whole ripple effect. It's the impact ripple. And you just think about, how is this going to work? And, one of the first teams that I worked on in my early 20s, we had that. We had about 12 of us on the team. Nobody had the "it's not my job" mentality. We each had our job, but if somebody was out sick, we popped in. If somebody needed to run to the restroom, we had each other's back. And it stemmed from our leader. Now, don't get me wrong. She worked us. She had high expectations for us. And she also took care of us. One of the best things she did is on Wednesdays. We loved Wednesdays because we had someone come in, and every Wednesday she had someone come in for about 3 hours and give us chair massages. So we each had a 20-minute chair massage. So it's like, she took care of us. And, it's those little things. But when people know that you care about them, and not about the results, not about just what they're, but like you care about them, they show up for you. And then they'll show up for the public too.
Love that. The white glove leadership is so important. Even as I think about that, and maybe one more question about that, because you're trying to create a motivating environment for your team. You're trying to take care of them first. You're going to have some that are not going to buy into that philosophy. They might be a superstar, they might be a higher performer, they might be a revenue generator, a rainmaker, however you want to call them in the term that's there. How do you address that person, and can you keep them on the team? How long can you keep them on the team?
There's a really great framework that I was taught by one of my coaches, and it's called GWC, and it stands for Get It, Want It, Capacity to Do It. It actually comes out of EOS from Gino Wickman. And so really sitting down with them and being like, first of all, do you get it? Do you get the vision? Do you get your role? Do you get your role in the vision? So do we get it? Next, do you really want it? And then do you have the capacity to do it? I had someone that was on this team, and I could just tell she got it. She had the capacity to do it, but you know what? She didn't really want it. She just wasn't happy. I could tell. And I was like, you know what? You're awesome. I love you. And if you want to do this, I got your back, but I got to ask you, it doesn't seem like you're happy. She's like, I'm really not. And I'm like, all right, then where would you be happy? So we found another place in the organization where she could do more of what lit her up on the inside. So again, you have to be willing to have these. Again, it's not a mean thing. It had nothing to do with, are they a good person or a bad person? You have to think of your organization, whether it's an organization of one or a million and one, you got to think of it as a living, breathing organism. And you've got to make decisions that are best for the health and wellness of the company. And not every person is going to do that. It doesn't mean they're a bad person. Also, when companies grow. So this company that I'm with right now, they've been around for almost 2 decades. But I'll tell you, the company they were when they started is very different than the company they are today. And a lot of what we're looking for in our leadership team, it's not the same leaders that were there 20 years ago because we're leading differently. We're evolving. So it's really making sure that you're having these conversations, checking in with them, because there's certain times where they may not get it, they may not want it, and they may not have the capacity. A big thing is the capacity. Sometimes we just put too much on our people, and we do that because they tell us they're fine. Oh, I could do this. Oh, I could do that. And we're like, no, you can't. Doing 5 things is too much because you're doing all of them good. But what if we just did 3 of them great? So I think, that's where also you have to step in and be like, I know you think this is working, but it's really not working. And let's talk about how we can make it work better. So
I love that. And I love that. First, like the reference of your coach as well. Oh, by the way, you have a coach too. GWC, love the framework that they that they teach to go through that, and you reteach something like that you've learned. What else do you do from a personal development standpoint? What do you do to stay, on top of your own personal development so that you can continue to add value to those team members that you have?
I do about an hour of personal development every day, whether it's reading, listening to podcasts, attending talks, workshops, seminars. So every day I'm working on growing myself. I'm working on really studying things more than just, I would say, absorbing them. So I am rereading some books. I am re-listening to some podcasts so I can really study them and go deeper and work on the implementation of some of the great ideas that I do. But I think every day you've got to be growing and learning. And I just learned that from watching the other people who I respect. Those are what people like Jim Rohn, Tony Robbins, that's what they do. And I said, you know what? I got to do it too.
I did see in your LinkedIn profile, you're also certified with Tony Robbins as well. So names that you brought up, Covey and Gino Wickman from the EOS world, or 10X, where I think he was 10X as well. What's a book that you suggest to many people for them to read to help them in their personal development?
Oh, there's so many great ones. One of my favorite books is The Go-Giver by Bob Berg
Great book.
and John Mann.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's just so simplistic in talking about that we have to focus on delivering value, and that when you show up every day and you are a resource for others, money flows to you. So I love that one. Robin Sharma is another person. I love all of his books. Big fan of Mel Robbins. I love her 5-second rule. That
Oh,
really
nice. Yeah.
makes people clear on doing things. Brendan Burchard does a lot with habits. Atomic
Mm-hmm.
Habits is a great book. So yeah, there's a lot of them out there.
You got them all. You got a lot of them covered in terms of the good ones that are there. You mentioned podcasts. Any favorite podcasts? And you can't include your own. I'm going to come back to yours here in a second.
Yes. So yes, mine is Clarity in Action. I do definitely love mine, but I love the Huberman Labs for fun. I love Smartless and Conan O'Brien. I like those. I love learning about people. So I love Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Wiser Than Me, because I love to learn, and I believe that success leaves clues. How I Built That by Guy Raz. Those are some of the ones that I love to listen to.
Clarity in Action, because you don't have enough time anyway. You're running several businesses and running a 1,300 person team as well, speaking, training, all those things. What's the favorite question that you like to ask as the host of your podcast?
So the favorite question I love to ask, and I ask it at the end, it's how do you define success for yourself? Because I feel in this world that moves a million miles a minute, we are actually more connected than disconnected. And I also feel that there are different ways to define success. And I think we need to look at that. There's not one size fits all. So I like to be able to bring some insight into the fact that we all can define success for ourselves differently, and that is perfectly okay.
Getting to know you better here. What would be your karaoke song that you would sing?
God, I got a couple. Well, I would definitely, I'm a Pat Benatar girl, so I love Pat Benatar. Get out there and do some of that. Pink would be great. So yeah, there's some awesome ones. Journey. Yeah.
Journey. Journey's tough to sing. Steve Perry's a hard one to sing. There's no doubt about it. All right.
I'm not going out there and singing any of them, let me be clear, but if I did, those would be the ones I would want to do.
Is. Which one would you sing? That's what I wanted to know. Which one would you sing? Like, come on, there's something that you sing in the shower or when you're out with friends, whatever it is. There's a song
I would probably go to a Pat Benatar or Blondie of some sort.
Okay, all right. We'll give you Pat Benatar.
Yeah.
Try and hit me with your best shot. That's what we'll go with.
Okay.
How's that? Okay. How do you define success for yourself?
Yeah, great question. So very easy. I ask myself 3 things at the end of each day. Did I show love today? Did I inspire today? And did I impact the world positively today? If I can do those 3 things every day, it was a successful day.
Great answer. Great question and a great answer. The last question I have, I'll give you the last word here in 1 second. You've been a lot of fun listening through some of my silly questions as well. When you think about going in to see someone for the first time, it's not your 1,300 person team, but it's training or whatever. We have a leader that's challenged. They're not focused with their time. They're really getting started. What's kind of that first thing that you look for, or that first step you suggest in a leader so that they get more clarity?
Yeah. I think I start with sort of tell me your story. I love to learn the origin story. I really go in and ask a lot of questions and listen first to find out what is working, what's not working, why they started the company, just to really observe and be more of a fly on the wall. Because I think even when we talk and they share, they start to self-discover on their own.
Love that. Clara, how should folks get in touch with you? Where do you want them to go?
Yeah, the best way is they can go to my website, just claracapano.com. I'm also all over the socials, but primarily LinkedIn and Instagram are my two biggest ones.
Okay. Yeah. That's the way to go. I'll make sure to put the links in the show notes to those things. Last question for all of my first-time guests that I asked them to finish with. I'm going to give you a billboard. You can put that billboard anywhere you want to. What's the message that you're going to put on that billboard, and why do you put that message on?
Okay, so I'm going to do it. Got clarity. Just like how we used to have the old ones, got milk, it's got clarity, because I think it's going to wake people up and make them question that they may not be as clear as they think, and we want them to be able to go forward with clarity.
Love that. Thanks so much, Clara. I've enjoyed our conversation today. Hope you have as well. I wish you the best in all the future work that you have, okay?
Thank you so much, and I appreciate what you're doing. You're really making impact happen.
Let's see what we can do. Let's do more. Hey, Uncommon Leaders, hope you loved that conversation with Clara Capano. I know that I did. Anytime I get a chance to talk with leaders, ultimately about how we manage our priorities better. She talked about it in the form of how it started for her as a young child and how as a parent she needs to manage her time well, but certainly how it ultimately was let's put those big rocks into our calendar first for our self-development, for our family time, and ultimately for those that mean the most to us, so that we are investing our time and not just spending it. I love having conversations with leaders who are so focused and intentional about their time. You probably heard something on here that you know that someone else needs to hear about. Why don't you share this with them and let them know about the Uncommon Leader podcast? And certainly if you haven't before, we would appreciate a 5-star review on any of the platforms that you listen. That gets it into the hands of many more other common leaders. So until next time, go and grow champions.